say they're influenced by Russia. Everything that happens, it's Russia. Why do they have their eyes closed like that? So Africans aren't capable of developing anything. Africans aren't capable of inventing, innovating, or taking initiatives. That's what we're fighting against. And look at their speeches. Look at their speeches. Even the French president, always in his speeches, says that young Africans are influenced by Russia.
Africa's youngest leader just declared war on the world's oldest powers. But will he survive long enough to win? What's your take? Is Ibrahim Traoré Africa's hero or just another strongman? Drop a comment, hit like, and subscribe. This is the story the world isn't ready for. 36 years old, no polished suits, no Western PR team. Just a soldier with fire in his eyes and a nation in his fists. Ibrahim Traoré didn't just lead a coup, he rewrote the rules. In one night, the flag changed, French troops packed, global powers panicked. From the dusty streets of Ouagadougou to the war rooms of Washington, everyone's asking the same question. Who is this man? And why is he shaking the entire world? Because this isn't just about Burkina Faso. This is about Africa saying enough. Enough puppets. Enough foreign chains. And as the smoke clears, one name echoes through the Sahel. Ibrahim Traoré, hero, threat, or the beginning of a global storm? Before the revolution, there was a boy. Born in Bondokui, a quiet village in western Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré grew up watching his people wrestle with poverty, corruption, and silence. Not just silence, but forced silence. The kind colonizers left behind. He wasn't raised in palaces. He didn't inherit power. He earned grit, survival, faith. And then he joined the military, not to serve the state, but to protect the people. In 2010, he began rising quietly through the ranks. Sharp, disciplined, respected. But something shifted in him during the chaos of 2022. His country, drowning in terror attacks, bad leadership, and foreign interference. The government, crumbling. The people, screaming. That's when he snapped, not with rage, but with resolve. Quote, "I chose to serve the people, not a puppet government." He wasn't chasing fame, he wasn't looking for the crown. He was tired. The people were tired. Burkina Faso deserved better. So when opportunity knocked, he didn't hesitate. At 34, he led a bloodless coup. Swift, surgical, unstoppable. The streets erupted. Young people lifted his photo like a flag. Soldiers called him Captain Courage. And suddenly the man who once stood in dusty boots was standing on history's edge. Emotional anchor. He didn't crave power. He craved justice. But justice in the Sahel comes at a cost, and Traoré, he was ready to pay it. September 30th, 2022, while the world was busy watching Ukraine, inflation, and elections, Burkina Faso exploded. At dawn, gunfire cracked through the capital. Military trucks rolled through Ouagadougou like thunder, and by sunset the government had fallen. No drawn-out civil war, no foreign armies, just one bold move. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, 36 years old, stood on national television, flanked by soldiers, and declared the end of the old regime. His voice, calm. His message, clear. The fight for our nation must be led by patriots, not puppets. On the streets, thousands erupted in celebration. Protesters burned French flags. Some waved Russian ones. Not because they loved Moscow, but because they hated being controlled. "France, get out," they shouted. "Africa is awake." For the first time in decades, the youth saw a leader who looked like them, sounded like them, and wasn't afraid. But how did he do it? Traoré didn't just overpower the military elites, he outsmarted them. While generals squabbled and hesitated, he built quiet alliances with younger officers, frustrated infantry, and the street itself. His coup was clean, controlled, shockingly fast. And the people? They didn't beg for democracy, they begged for dignity. Tension moment, but the world wasn't cheering. Western powers sounded the alarm. Diplomats scrambled. The EU warned of instability. The US issued cautious statements. Because Traoré's rise wasn't just a national event, it was a geopolitical earthquake. One that shattered decades of foreign influence and lit a fuse under Africa's quiet rebellion. What happened that day wasn't just a coup, it was a declaration. Africa will no longer be ruled from abroad. 3 months after the coup, the headlines hit like a shockwave. France ordered out of Burkina Faso. Just like that, Traoré expelled 400 French special forces stationed in the country. No diplomatic dance, no sugarcoating, just a deadline. Macron's government? Outraged. French media painted Traoré as a radical populist. Le Figaro called it a dangerous pivot. Others whispered the word puppet, but this time they weren't talking about the West. Because right behind France's retreat came Russia. Not with tanks, not with embassies, but with shadows. Traoré didn't hide it. He welcomed military advisors with open arms, but these weren't ordinary advisors. These were Wagner operatives, Russia's unofficial deniable boots on the ground. The same shadow army accused of war crimes in Mali, Syria, and Ukraine. The same force whose loyalty is to the Kremlin, or at least to power. Visual cue: Traoré shaking hands with Russian reps, loading arms crates, flags exchanging hands. The message was clear. Burkina Faso would no longer be a colony, at least not a French one. But here's the tension. Did Traoré free his people, or just change their master? Analysts are split. Some call it realpolitik, others call it a sellout. The streets? Still supportive, for now. But one question looms large. Is this the beginning of a new African sovereignty, or the launch of a new Cold War in the Sahel? Burkina Faso didn't rise alone. In Mali, the military seized power in 2021. In Guinea, it happened the same year. Niger followed in 2023. A domino effect, or the birth of a movement? These aren't isolated incidents. They're echoes of the same rebellion. A new bloc is forming. They're tossing out French diplomats, canceling security pacts, burning Western flags in public squares. And their leaders? They're not begging for loans. They're demanding respect. Traoré, Goïta, Tiani, young, military, unapologetically anti-colonial. The West sees chaos, but on the ground, many see hope. They call it pan-Sahelism, one borderless dream for the heart of Africa. One mission: kick out foreign control, build a self-reliant Sahel. There's even talk of a joint army, one force to defend the new era. They've already signed security agreements among themselves, joint patrols, shared intelligence. The West is scared, and for good reason. If they succeed, it won't just shake Africa. It could rewrite the entire world order. No more puppet governments. No more foreign military bases with backdoor deals. Just Africa. Standing tall. Together. But can it last? Can this fragile alliance survive pressure from the US, France, and China? Or will their dream of unity collapse under fire? You decide. Comment below. Would you support this new Sahel alliance? Or is it doomed to fall apart like every Pan-African dream before it? Revolutions don't happen quietly, and this one shook the halls of Washington, Paris, and Brussels. Just days after Traoré took power, ECOWAS came swinging with threats of military intervention. They called it a coup against democracy, but the people in Ouagadougou called it liberation. Then came the sanctions. Economic pressure from France, cutting aid, freezing assets. But Traoré didn't flinch. He doubled down. French troops? Expelled. Western contracts? Cancelled. Behind the scenes, whispers grew louder. CIA operatives watching the region. US State Department envoys quietly flying in. On paper, it was diplomacy. In reality, containment. Traoré had become too unpredictable, too popular, too bold. Western media outlets painted him as a strongman, a threat. They plastered headlines. Burkina Faso slips into chaos. Traoré's dangerous gamble. But on African Twitter, TikTok, and Telegram, they called him the Lion of the Sahel. Streets filled with chants, portraits of Traoré next to Thomas Sankara. One post went viral: the West fears what they can't control, and control was slipping fast. The West tried to paint him as dangerous, but millions see him as their Mandela. A man willing to risk it all to give Africa a voice no longer filtered through Paris or Washington. But how long can he hold off the pressure? When your enemies control the banks, the airwaves, and the embassies, can ideology alone keep the fire alive? Or will the West find a way to put this revolution back in a box? While the West scrambled to contain him, Traoré was busy laying out a blueprint for something far bigger than Burkina Faso. A new Africa. In speech after speech, he hammered home one truth. We cannot build our future with foreign hands. He called on African youth, students, soldiers, farmers, to wake up. Dependency is not destiny, he said. Africa must rise on its own terms. This wasn't just rhetoric. Traoré began nationalizing key resources, gold, phosphate, cotton, redirecting profits from foreign firms to local communities. Military academies were set up not just to train fighters, but to train defenders of African sovereignty. Africa will decide its own fate now. His message? No more handouts, no more IMF shackles, no more neo-colonialism with a smiling face. He invoked Sankara, Nkrumah, Lumumba. But this wasn't nostalgia, it was a reboot. Pan-Africanism 2.0, this time fueled by technology, a youthful population and a deep hunger for dignity. He's not just leading a country, he's igniting a continent. The only question left, will Africa follow? But with every revolutionary step comes a darker shadow. Behind closed doors, the whispers are growing louder. Traoré won't survive the year. Multiple coup attempts. Snipers spotted near government sites, foreign drones above Ouagadougou. His inner circle is thinning. Trust is a luxury he can't afford. The international elite have taken notice, and not kindly. Intelligence leaks suggest assassination plots, covert ops, bribes, poison. And it's not just foreign threats. Poverty still strangles daily life. Jihadist groups wage bloody ambushes on remote villages. And yes, some within his own military resent his power. They say he's gone too far or not far enough. Burkina Faso walks a tightrope, one wrong step, and it's collapse. Will the system kill him before the system changes? Or can he outpace the storm and rewrite the rules before they take him out? This isn't just about Burkina Faso. This is about everyone. The US has drones in the skies. France wants its military bases back. China eyes the minerals. Russia wants influence. The Sahel, once forgotten, is now a chessboard. Under the soil, gold, uranium, lithium, rare earths, the stuff that powers the modern world. Above it, trade routes, strategic air corridors, terror networks. If the Sahel unites, if Traoré pulls this off, the balance of global power shifts. Western empires panic, new alliances form, and suddenly, Africa stops being a pawn. Punchline: the scramble for Africa is back, and Traoré just flipped the board. The question now is, who gets checkmated? Africa's youngest leader just declared war on the world's oldest powers. But will he survive long enough to win? The bullets are real. The stakes are higher than headlines. Traoré's story isn't just Burkina Faso's, it might be the future of Africa. So what do you believe? Drop a comment, hit subscribe, because if history's being rewritten, you'll want front row seats.